Hello, I'm Kenneth Tyler. Let's do some slow BI. Yesterday I posted a video about using Cradex process control charts and how helpful they were in order to be able to find processes that were varying out of their normal range. But sometimes you wouldn't want to, for a dashboard, have to fish around and look through all your sales for all your stores in order to see which ones were out of the normal range. So today we're going to investigate a way to get a list of only the stores that show a notable variation. So what we have here in SQL Server is the Microsoft Sample Contoso database. And I've done a query on the fact sales table. The change I made is that in the date table, in the calendar table, which is in Contoso, I added a column that has the previous calendar week in it. So I'm returning that and I'm summing up the sales amount, and we're summing it up by store. This gives us data that we can look at, that we can analyze in Power BI. We could have done these calculations in Power BI, but I was curious about doing them in SQL Server, so I tried it. Here we are looking at the same data once it's been loaded into Power BI. Now, there are a lot of sales in Contoso, so our sample that we're looking at here has been restricted to just the year 2009 and just one store, store 307. If you were using these techniques to look at your sales, you probably would be wanting to look at them in almost real time, because one of the things about process control charts is they give you almost immediate indications when a process is going out of control. And the way to find out what's causing those variations is to go check right then while people still remember what might have been different about that week. You can see that I've written some measures and I've added some columns here. We have here the moving range, which is the difference between this week's sales and the previous week's sales. And then for this store, we have the average moving range. The center line of a XmR chart is an average of the weekly sales. The upper control limits is arrived at by taking a constant, which has been derived from lots of long experience in the field with these charts, 2.66, and multiplying that by the average moving range. And you then add that to the average weekly sales, which is the center line of the chart, and you get an upper limit. The lower limit is done in much the same way. You take the average weekly sales, which is the center line of the chart, and you subtract the average moving range times 2.66. Once you have those two numbers, then, and we're only going to analyze Rule 1 here. Rule 1 is an instance where the weekly sales is equal to or above the upper limit, or equal to or below the lower limit. So I've written a little measure that calculates the amount which is above or the amount which is below. And the stores we're interested in are the ones that have violations, where Rule 1 comes into effect. And you can see here that this store, starting on the 21st week and going through down through about the 50th week, was consistently above its upper limit. On the other hand, back on the first week of 2009, it was below its lower limit. So this would be a store that you would want to go investigate and see what was happening for it to cause this unusual behavior. Sales which were above the normal range of the sales you would expect that store to make. This information could be presented in Power BI along with a XmR chart and used as a filter to give a list of stores, because if we looked at other stores besides 307, we would probably find others who had unusual behavior. So it would give you a list of stores to investigate and date ranges to go look at to further analyze their sales and to try and figure out what the specific causes were for the unusual reports of sales. So this is an example of doing the XmR chart as a calculation, not in order to display it, but in order to get information about the sales that can then be used in one or more reports to get more data about that particular week and that particular store, and maybe what products were sold, which products had high sales, to try and understand just what was going on. Did one product account, or one set of product account for the bulk of the sales that put this store over its limit? Those are the kind of questions that could be investigated. This table is not intended to be that investigation. It's only intended to help you cut down on the number of stores and time periods that you need to look at and try to analyze. Thank you. It's been fun.